Hi folks, welcome to the Prepared Homestead. This is Travis. Thank you all for stopping by to watch. Well, there's just this big thing in the news that I'm sure everyone is highly focused on. It's probably about the only thing that you've been thinking about all day because the internet is absolutely abuzz about this big, breaking, huge news. Don Lemon got fired over at CNN. Yes, that big news. Oh, you probably were also thinking about that Tucker Carlson also got fired over on Fox News. That's right, the most watched, the highest rated show in mainstream news, and the host was fired apparently. I know the official story is that it was a mutual thing and they parted ways, but if you listen to his show on Friday and the speech that he gave over the weekend, sounds to me like he was anticipating having a show come Monday evening, and that's not the case. So I would say that he probably was terminated. We'll see how that all plays out. If you want more of my opinion on that, I did post a video over on Patreon today talking about that and my opinion of Tucker Carlson and all that kind of stuff. So you can go watch that over there. There is something else that's going on. It's been going on for a while, and there's just more and more information coming out about it. But unfortunately, the vast majority of the American people and a lot of the world really isn't paying attention to it. They don't care because it doesn't affect them directly right now. It will affect them, but it's not affecting us down at the lower levels right now. The higher levels, the banks, the big corporations and stuff, it's affecting them. And that is the fact that the U.S. dollar is losing its grip. It's losing its stronghold on the world. And this is becoming a very big deal. Again, not a lot of people paying attention to it, but it is a super huge deal. And we've been talking about it on this channel for a while, and there's just more and more stuff happening almost now a daily basis that indicates that the U.S. dollar is just getting weaker. In fact, Reuters here today has an article talking about how the dollar is sliding as it's losing power. You know, a lot of this power that the dollar has lost is due to the sanctions that they have placed on Russia. Not specifically because Russia holds such a huge market share, but the sanctions that were placed on Russia, the fact that we, seized hundreds of millions of dollars of their money, hundreds of billions of dollars of Russian money, has told a lot of the rest of the world that maybe putting our faith and hope in the U.S. dollar is not the right thing, because if we don't do the thing that the United States wants us to do, they will punish us severely. And I think that's why you're seeing a lot of other countries run to things, other currencies that don't use their military to punish them. And so we're watching a very rapid pace. Now, it's not rapid as in next week the U.S. dollar will be nothing and no one will be using it, but all things considered, it is a very rapid pace. Back in 2001, the U.S. dollar's global market share was about 73%. By 2020, that market share had dropped to 55% globally. And since about 2022 or so, in the last year or so, it has dropped down to 47%. So we're talking another 8 to 9% drop, and most of that is because of the sanctions that we're putting on Russia. In fact, right now the dollar is losing its global prowess. People are using less of the U.S. dollar internationally at a rate of 10 times faster than was seen in the previous 2 decades. This is massive. We're seeing the effects small time because, and again, I'm not a expert on this, but I know enough to know that it's ripples, right? It's like a tsunami, and it doesn't hit all at once. You have the earthquake or whatever is the initial trigger that causes it. It's a while before those waves start rolling in. And so that's what we're seeing. And usually it's little ones, and then all of a sudden the big tsunami hits. That's what we're seeing. It's just little bits here and there, but pretty good odds that at some point in the future that those big tsunamis are going to start crashing in. The treasury rates are all wonky. A lot of people, and again, I don't know exactly all the ins and out details, but there seems to be a lot of people in the financial world that's a little concerned with this. We've got 3-month rates that are going up, and there's this big divergence that 1-month rates are crashing down. A very unusual thing, as you can see on this chart, they usually go hand in hand, but all of a sudden they're diverging. One theory is that this is because of the pending debt ceiling limit that we're about to hit, and the possibility, it looks like, of it being extended by about $1.5 trillion. It's interesting that McCarthy, the Speaker of the House, was saying how debt is so dangerous. The American debt, it's a ticking time bomb. And then almost in the next sentence, so that's why we're going to extend the debt ceiling by $1.5 trillion. Okay, we're gonna cut back. We're gonna cut our spending back to 2022 levels of spending. Well, we spent a lot in 2022. That's nothing great. That's like, going on a vacation and spending lots of money and then getting back and say, you know what? From now on, we're going to keep our spending levels to the same amount of spending and frivolous spending as we did while we were on vacation. That's ridiculous. Cut it way back. But you're not going to see that most likely. Anyways, the sanctions that we put on Russia has a chance to get worse. Not only have we been talking about or floating the idea around, or at least getting people conditioned to it, of putting potential sanctions on China, but now G7, which is, the United States and 6 other big nations, they are working on a plan to put sanctions on all of Russia's exports, that they will sanction it all. Russia, of course, has threatened to cut off their grain, and who knows what else they will cut. But if the United States goes to that extent, I'm pretty sure guessing that the U.S. dollar is going to take an even bigger hit. We're watching countries all over the world see this, and they're like, yeah, you know what? I mean, some of them don't like America, and it's pretty obvious when they're given a chance, they're going to take it and run with it and walk away from anything American. But there's been several countries that we have had pretty good business relationships with that are also like, even like France. France has been an ally since before we were the United States. I mean, I've said before, you could make a pretty good argument that the United States may not exist if it hadn't been for France's support. And they've also turned their back on the U.S. dollar in international trade deals. It was announced this morning that there are 19 new countries that are applying for membership to be part of BRICS. And BRICS has a big summit coming up soon. And so they've got 19 applications. And again, some of these are little small countries. Some of them, don't really control much of any kind of, global markets. But there are some that do, some that are pretty significant. And this is a big deal that we're seeing the world become even more divided than I think we ever saw during the Cold War. And this time around, America doesn't necessarily look like we're the ones at the top of the dung pile. I think we're about ready to get knocked off of that. And that's something that we all need to be prepared for. Zimbabwe, which is a country that is very familiar with hyperinflation. I used to have a few of those $100 trillion bills that was floating around many years ago. They've kind of got their act together, though. They're a big gold producer, and they're trying to join BRICS, and they're also working on creating a gold-backed digital currency, which is something that is very interesting that all of the BRICS nations seem to be, at least indicating that could happen. In fact, the idea of the BRICS currency being gold-backed has been floated around, especially since most of the nations in the BRICS partnership are hoarding up lots of gold. Lots and lots of gold are being bought by them. Argentina, their central bank has run out of U.S. dollars being reported, and it's also being reported that they're now taking money basically bail-ins. They're taking money out of the depositors' accounts to make up for the fact that there's no U.S. dollars. Now, of course, initially this makes Argentina look bad. They're already dealing with over 100% inflation. Just this past week, they raised the interest rates, I think, like 300 points. It's crazy down there. It's like they have like 80% interest rates or something. It's really, really bad. Like they're looking just like Venezuela did a few years ago. So that's probably part of it, probably a big part of it. But the fact that a major central bank no longer has U.S. dollars is run out, is that very possibly an indicator that the U.S. dollar is just running out? We've seen the M2 money supply just drop while the Fed's balance sheets increase, which indicates that the Fed is creating money for themselves, for the banks and the central banks, but the actual currency that's out there in circulation is becoming less and less. And that's just my hillbilly take on it. Again, central banks are buying also, not just the BRICS nations, but central banks are buying gold at levels not seen since the 1950s. I've seen reports as high as, 1,000+% higher than they have been buying gold, in the last few years. The numbers are absolutely astonishing, how much these central banks are buying gold, which again, as I've said for months and months now, is another indicator that if countries, central banks, the wealthy elite are putting all of their money into gold and other hard assets like that, that's probably a pretty good indication that the money system that exists today, this fiat currency, is on the verge of being done with. And so you should probably be taking measures yourself also. All of this is all on the backs of a failing economy. These are a graph here. This is from the Dallas Federal Reserve Bank, and what it's showing is that manufacturing is going down. You can see there at the very end, the red, several months in a row there that manufacturing has been slowing down. We've been hearing about this. I reported just the other day that trucking shipments in California out of the ports, which that's where a big chunk of imports come from, they're down to levels below that of 2019. We're seeing the slowdown of manufacturing, which is always an indicator that the economy is slowing down. So again, this is something that's happening. I mean, there can be people out there, the naysayers, and saying that, oh, everything looks normal. I've seen that in the posts of the I've seen that in some comments in the last few days, possibly trolls. I don't know. Doesn't matter. But people that are like, oh, I don't know what you're talking about with all this fear mongering. Everything's just fine to me. I mean, I can still put gasoline in my car, and I still go to the store and buy my stuff, and I still own a home, and I still got a job. I mean, everything looks fine to me. I don't know what you're talking about. I think you're just getting all upset over nothing. Okay. You go ahead and you believe that, and when your whole world comes crashing in on you, you can go run to the government, and maybe they'll throw you a block of cheese, or some moldy bread, or some disease-infested blankets or something like that, because they're pretty good at that. If you can't see that all of these things are being lined up in just about every segment of our society, from our economy to manufacturing to geopolitics to the media seems to be doing a whitewashing there. There's been several other things going on in the media of people getting fired and media companies shutting down. We're seeing the very foundation of what morality and right and wrong has always been understood to be in this country and around the world, really, being shaken and flipped upside down and told that it's all wrong. The only civilizations that's ever accepted these kinds of things were the most, pagan, satanic, demonic type of societies in human history. Those are the only ones. No other society that was somewhat biblically based and had a decent level of morality has ever accepted these things that are being pushed by the social media networks and the White House and everything else as being normal. You put it all together, I don't see how any sane, just decent thinking, logical, rational person can see all this and not see that we are headed down a very dark path. And you have to get prepared. A lot of this, of course, I'm talking about today is financial, is US dollars. There's a lot of people really worried about that. Worried about that in the sense is they don't know what to do with their own money. And I'm not the expert. I've had people recently, several people in fact, emails and in person, ask me that question. What do I do? What do I do with my retirement? What do I do with money that I have put away for a rainy day? You're going to have to find and this is the tough one, you're going to have to find a financial advisor that is aware of what's going on, that doesn't dismiss it and understands that we are living at the beginning of a collapse. They get that. They're not there to like, oh, I'm going to tell them to put their money into this stock. Well, buy some Fox News stock and some Budweiser because it's down right now. You could make some money off of it. They're not going to do that. They're going to say, yeah, this is bad. Things are starting to break apart. We need to figure out a way to secure your wealth so that when it goes through this, that you can at least retain some of it. You may not retain all of it, but maybe we can help retain some of it. So you need to find a financial advisor that gets that. That may be tough, but it's kind of like finding doctors, in the last 2 or 3 years that wasn't wanting to shoot you full of their venom. Second thing is, and this may be even more important, is to make sure that you're prepared. If you've got $100,000 in some kind of investment bank account, but yet you don't have a year or two food supply, and you don't have a way to defend yourself, and you don't have medical supplies stocked up, and you don't have things like that, then I don't know what to tell you, but I think your situation's out of balance. You want to make sure that you have some precious metals. I don't know that you need a whole lot. Maybe a little bit of cash on hand, because there's going to be a place there that just regular old cash is going to work for a short amount of time when everything starts falling apart. But I wouldn't keep a lot. And then the kind of metals to protect it, and then just the kinds of things that you need to purchase and to have on hand to take care of yourself. Because even if you put that money in some Swiss bank so that it's secure, even through a collapse, I don't know that would be a secure place, but let's just pretend for a moment. What's it going to do you any good if you're starving and you're overrun by, and you still have to go to the government because you can't get food, or you can't get this or that, or you have to capitulate and give in and join, find your place at the local FEMA camp or whatever. So make sure that you're prepared first. Because all of that wealth, well, it doesn't mean a whole lot. I mean, I've seen people that are billionaires, worth hundreds of millions or even a few billion, advising people to grow food, to get a little piece of property. These aren't like preppers necessarily. These are financial gurus, and they're saying this kind of stuff now. And then they tell you to put your money into gold and silver, into precious metals. Putting your money into foreign banks, maybe, I don't know. I know nothing about that. I've never done it. I don't know anything about it. And it may not be the wisest thing to do. But you certainly want to be coming up with a plan and putting that plan into activation really soon, because I'm afraid if you wait too much longer, your hundreds of thousands or a couple of $1 million may be a few weeks worth of salary. I don't know. So you want to start making some moves pretty quickly, because things just don't look too good. And even though we may be 2 or 3 years off from a complete total cash currency collapse, I think we're going to, at the very minimum, start to see some real bumpy and rough rides between now and that point. And of course, the collapse of the US dollar could happen quite quickly. It could be only months away. Folks, right now is the time to get your houses in order and to prepare mentally, physically, and spiritually. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video. Folks, we are living in uncertain times where chaos seems to be around every corner. With wars and rumors of wars, economic collapse, pandemics, and more, we should strive daily to become more prepared mentally, physically, and of course spiritually. Please check out My Patriot Supply for all your preparedness needs. My Patriot Supply offers ready hour food, Alexa Pure water filters, and many other emergency and survival products. My Patriot Supply is an American-owned company, run by Americans producing American-made food. Emergency food from My Patriot Supply has a 25-plus year shelf life. It's simple to fix and delicious to eat. With My Patriot Supply, you can sleep at ease at night knowing that you and your family have the emergency food to last through the coming times. To find out more, click on the link in the description below or go to preparewithtravis.com.